Hey, this is Nige Rockett from Onslaught, and you're listening to Sonic Perspectives.
And today I am joined by guitarist and founding member of Onslaught, none other than Nige Rockett. Almost 4 decades as one of the most well-known names in thrash metal, Onslaught is gearing up to release their first studio album in almost 7 years. And the first thing that I notice about Generation Antichrist is that it's aggressive, it's punchy, it's sharp. Onslaught has always been hard and heavy, but what made it time for this level of brutality, really kicking it up a notch?
Very good question. We kind of had a discussion before we even went into the writing stages of this record of obviously which direction to take things. Last 2 albums, Sounds of Violence and Six, they've been aggressive records, but slightly more technical, if one of a better word for Onslaught, you know. So we're a band who never like to have 2 albums sound the same back to back. So we discussed it, as I said, the direction, and we said let's go back a little bit, go back to our roots and see what inspired us, see the attitude and the vibe when we recorded the Force album in 1986, and let's take that kind of mental approach to making this record, which we did. We stripped the songs back, shorter songs, stripped the production layers back. And just made it as raw as possible, you know. No drum samples, all natural drums, which I think has added an extra energy to the record. And I brought some riffs in that I had lying around from 1983 as well, just to give it that extra old school vibe, you know. And it's really worked. It's obviously got a modern, kind of very brutal production, which was always the intention. And yeah, it's worked. It's like 1986 Onslaught meets 2020 Onslaught, and it's come out really good.
What would you say has been the common thread that has tied all of Onslaught's discography together over the years?
Myself, I guess. I'm the last man standing from day one, so that's always going to have a big influence on the way the band sounds, you know, especially as I write a majority of the material. So that's always going to keep the band sounding as Onslaught, you know. Even though we've changed the vocalist recently, I've always wrote the lyrics and the vocal melody. So although we've lost a great front man and a great singer, the overall sound of the band was never going to change if we've got a replacement who could handle the material well, you know, which we have in Dave Garnett, our new vocalist. He's not a million miles away from sounding like Sy Keeler in delivery. Tonally a little different, but he handles the old material amazingly well, and obviously the delivery on the new album has just been off the scale. I mean, he's took the aggression to another level, which has completely matched the production. So yeah, I mean, we've been had a lot of continuity, except for one record, I would say, where things kind of went a bit wobbly back in the late 80s. But the fans know what to expect from Onslaught, but we just up the brutality a little bit more this time.
So it's interesting to hear you say when you brought those riffs back from 1983 or so, you said you're going old school. Well, you've been around from old school to modern. What are the biggest changes that you've had to react to as artists as the scene has changed?
Obviously, the internet has been the biggest thing that has changed over the years. I don't know, a lot of things have really changed apart from that. Obviously, the way we make records is different now, how we record things, but the internet has been the biggest game changer in good ways and bad ways, as we all know. It kind of decimated bands' incomes like 20 years ago with all the illegal downloading starting and what have you. So that obviously was going to change the music industry drastically. Whereas we used to make money from albums, money to live on, album sales. We never made money from touring back in the day. Whereas now we make money from touring, but we make no money from record sales. So it's kind of a full turn on that. But everything else, I mean, it's the internet has been amazing for contacting people. We've now played in almost 70 different countries since we've been back together, and that's purely down to communication quickly. And I mean, back in the day, we used to do a lot of tape trading, and that's how the band started, and writing letters back and forth, fan mail. And sometimes those letters would take sort of 6 weeks to circle back around, say from Brazil or somewhere like that. So you can see the differences. Your contact is immediate, as we're talking now, whereas it wasn't then. So the communication thing's a massive, massive help. Whereas the downside was the downloading from the internet. But I guess it's balanced itself out in its own way. So yeah, it's all good. I mean, I'm enjoying this time around, I would say, more than the first time we were running.
There's an entire generation of thrash musicians that have been inspired by Onslaught. And I'm sure a lot of that did start back when you had that personal connection through that fan letters, those tape trading. So when did you really start to see Onslaught as a veteran band in terms of the thrash scene? Like, when did you ever, when did that feeling hit you?
I don't know if it ever has, actually. I don't know. I don't ever think about it like that, to be honest. I mean, I just see us coming back in 2005 with a totally renewed energy, So I mean, it's obviously people call us like reunited and what have you, and a veteran band and stuff. But it doesn't feel like that. It just feels, every time it feels so fresh, especially making a new record that sounds so alive with so much energy. So I kind of don't think of ourselves like that. But obviously, I mean, it's great to be looked at as however people want to tag us. It's always very nice. People always say kind words 99.9% of the time. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to be tagged as legends, veterans, or whatever people want to call us.
And with that hiatus that you took and coming back, but even before that, Onslaught has never really been that 2-year cycle of release an album tour. You've definitely taken time between your albums, released some back to back. So that takes us to the present, where it's been about 7 years since your last studio album. So when did you really get started on Generation Antichrist, and how long have these ideas been brewing?
October 2018 was when we started writing for this album. The long 7-year gap was basically down for us just touring so much. We released 6 in 2013, toured that album all around the world for over 2 years, which took us into 2016, and that happened to be the 30th anniversary of our 1986 album, The Force. Lots of demand to go out and play that album in its entirety, which we more than happy to do, but that 1 year anniversary tour went on for 2 years, and then the next thing the label would go, where's the album, guys? Where's the album? It's been too long. You need to. So as soon as we finished the tour, September 2018, we crashed straight into the writing, and it was a pretty quick process. We finished the writing the album in less than a year. And we were ready to go, and then things obviously kind of slowed down with the virus and the vocal change, so it kind of put us back an extra few months. But no, I mean, for me, long gaps between albums, I'm quite happy. Although 7 years is too long, I must say. But if albums are too close together, the tendency to sound maybe too similar to the last one. So I like a good gap in between where you can get totally fresh ideas and a totally new outlook on another record, So yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with 2, 3, 4 years between albums. It works for me. But that may not be the case this time around, because obviously we're stuck now. We've nothing to do for probably 6 to 8 months. So all we can do is start writing new material. which I'm kind of reluctant to do, but I think it would be sensible if we do make a start on writing new songs, because we don't want another 7-year gap, that's for sure.
That is a lot of touring that took up your time. As a musician, what is your favorite part about touring, and what is the biggest thing that you took away from all those years spending all that time on the big stage?
I just love touring. You know, I'm a person who loves to travel anyway. So when you can go to all these amazing, wonderful places and meet so many amazing people, and then you get to play a show for these people, it's just incredible. I mean, however rich you are, you cannot buy that experience. You cannot, however much money. And it's just absolutely out of this world. I mean, we're just so honoured to be in a position to be able to do that, you know. So, yeah, that's why touring is just immense. It's tough, don't get me wrong. It's not as glamorous as people probably think it is. When you're making 42 shows in 42 days around the USA and Canada, and you're driving between shows, that's tough. And then you go to South America and do 24 flights in 20 days. That's tough. But it's amazing. You have so much fun and so much experience in those times. It's just, that's what makes it for me. It really is. I just love touring so much. So, yeah, I just can't get enough.
Where did the inspiration for this latest album come from? Were the ideas something that you've been sitting on for a long time?
No, not really. I kind of, when I start to write a record, I kind of compile the list of song titles to try and paint the picture before we write the songs. So I had all the song titles and the album title together before we started writing. But then the world situation started to change a lot, you know, with the virus coming in and certain things what's going on with governments around the world. So that it kind of played a big influence on the lyrics on this album. Kind of a little different to the typical Onslaught album. There's some more political undertones in there. So yeah, I mean, a lot of my inspiration came for the lyrics after we got off tour, you know. And now with the virus kicking in, it kind of made things even more relevant again. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of bizarre. The track "Bow Down for the Clowns" from the album is I just completed the writing on end of December last year. It was about what was going on in the UK and the kind of situation with leaving the European Union. But then Brexit came in, the virus came in, and just turned the song around, and it's just so fitting to what's going on at the moment. It's incredible, you know. So yeah, I mean, there's it's a little bit more political than we're used to, but I think it's cool in a different way.
Yeah, so what are the big thematic concepts that really tie this album together? So you did mention a little bit about politics, and especially those that hit closer to home, but this album touches on a very wide range of topics. So I guess conceptually, just could you walk me through the album a little bit?
Yeah, a brief run through the first track. Strike Fast, Strike Hard is basically all about combat, the feeling of being in combat, I guess, full on, and how that must feel to some guys, you know. Going back down to the Clowns, the political thing I just mentioned. Then we go to Generation Antichrist, which is kind of a bit more themed close to home for me, as we tend to do a little religious bashing now and again, but this is my argument against religion. You know, I mean, I look at my children, who are starting to grow up now, and they have no interest in religion at all. They've never said a prayer, they've never sang a hymn, they've never gone to church. You know, so I see these and their friends as the generation of anti-Christians. You know, so that's where I kind of what inspired me for the title. And then the theme of the song is basically questioning the relevance of religion in this throughout. Basically, the verses are contradictory questions. So it's not just a case of bashing religion. There's some serious sort of thought behind the song. So I'd like people to read the lyrics on that one, because people think, oh, Onslaught being a satanic band, that's absolute bull, because it couldn't be further from the truth. There's some really strong arguments what are raised in the track Generation Antichrist. So I'd really like people to look a bit deeper on that one. Then again, we go a little bit more political with All Seeing Eyes, about how I look at the surveillance of populations around the world, even in your own home. You know, your little Google pod things and your mobile phones and your computers, your TVs. We're constantly being monitored, you know. Even yesterday, I was having a discussion with somebody about something completely random, not even, it was just face to face. It was nothing, not on the phone. And with an hour later, this thing came up on my phone, a really random, do you want to buy this or do you want to buy that? And that tells me somebody's listening into your conversation somewhere or somehow. So that song is kind of based all around that. Where do we go there? We go to Addicted to the Smell of Death, which is our very first serial killer track. Never done a serial killer track before, so it was kind of fun to do one about that. If you want to call serial killers fun, it's about a guy called H.H. Holmes, who was from Chicago, I believe, back in the 1800s, and he was allegedly the killer of up to 200 people, I believe. So that was kind of interesting. But the funny story behind where I got the track title from was I drive past a crematorium every day, which is fairly close to me. And whenever they're burning the bodies, they put out this kind of perfume smell into the air to obviously mask the smell of the burning flesh, you know, because it's quite near to a residential area. So smelling this every day, it kind of got me addicted to the smell because it was really nice, if that sounds a bit odd, but that's where I got the song title from, Addicted to the Smell of Death, from that kind of aroma they pump out in the air, which is a little bit strange, but there you go. There we go, religious suicide. My take again, my hatred for religion, or my dislike, I took to the extremes with this track, hence the lyric content in the chorus, but it's basically a song which is stating that religion is the creator of its own demise. It's just causing its own problems these days, and I really see the end of organised religion in maybe 50, 60 years' time, because I've said that the generation of Antichrist really aren't following this anymore, and I do not see any relevance. So I think that will be the end of it, hopefully, one day, for me anyway, personally. I think it'll probably outlive me, but there you go. Then, last track on the album is Perfect Day to Die, simply a tribute to our lost friends from Motorhead. So, that's the least we could do in a very, very sad song.
I mean, this album is just incredibly inspired, and hearing you talk about it just adds so much depth, especially considering you said this album is a little less technical, but there are still some incredibly impressive solos on the album. Do you have a particular favorite song on this album, especially when it comes to what you contribute instrumentally?
Well, thank you very much for the comments. It's very kind and very much appreciated. I don't know. I'm still listening to the album, and it's still sounding really fresh. So I guess, first of all, when the first track came out, after we'd finished recording, Religious Suicide was kind of, because it was the first single as such with Dave, and it sounded so brutal and fresh. I guess that was kind of my favourite track at the time, because it was just so much in your face and everything I wanted it to be. But as the listening goes on, I'm kind of swaying more now to Strike Fast, Strike Hard at the beginning of the album. And I'm kind of angling now that's going to be possibly our next single release on the album once it's out in the market, you know. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's got one of those riffs I borrowed back from 1983, and it just has everything for me. It's aggressive, it's so heavy and raw, and I just love the song. So I'm very, very pleased with the way that one's turned out.
And when it comes to touring this album, which are you most excited to hit the big stage with? Which songs do you think are really going to be those crowd pleasers?
That's a tough one. The thing is, unfortunately, you can't go out and play. Well, I suppose you could go out and play the whole album, but I think you need to break things up a little bit. I don't know whether if it came out and was massive in the first year of release, maybe you do that kind of thing. But I don't know. There's so many high energy tracks. I think we've got to be looking at playing Strike Fast, Strike Hard, and Religious Suicide, and probably Bow Down to the Clowns the first thing, because we're really looking to up the show production with Onslaught, which then lends us to the track Generation Antichrist, because we've got a lot of plans for that song in the live arena, and there's so much potential to put on a real good show for that one. So I think they're going to be the first 4 tracks that we're going to be picking out to play live.
Yeah, so that leads into my next question. What are your big plans for touring once you can get on the road again? What is Onslaught really looking to do on this next set of tours, however long that leg may be?
We've lost all our festivals and we lost the tours for this year, so luckily the festivals have been rescheduled for next year, which is great. But we have to replan all the tours of the US and South America and Europe now, which is obviously proving to be quite difficult because the promoters are still a little bit nervous. But the reason we put this album out now during the pandemic was to get a step ahead of everybody else, to make sure that the album's out there and people are excited and we can book the shows on the back of this, rather than be like many bands who have postponed and they're all going to try and release their albums at the same time and they're all going to be trying to book shows at the same time. So we're trying to get a jump on that. So yeah, I mean, we're working very hard to get everything together for next year. And let's just keep fingers crossed that everything comes together, because we'll be certainly ready for it, that's for sure.
Well, it seems like quite the balancing act, but aside from releasing this album and going on tour, what would you see the next big milestone that you want Onslaught to reach? That goal that you're still striving for as artists?
Wow. You've got some tough questions for me. We've been so fortunate, as I said, we've been so fortunate as a band. There's still some on the bucket list, of course. We haven't played Australia and New Zealand yet, and we haven't played India, so they're very high on the list. But we want to take the band to the next level in terms of what we could do for the fans. We want to be able to go on and put on bigger shows and make it more of a spectacle. And the annoying thing is everything was in place to do this summer at the festivals, and now that's been taken away. So it's kind of delayed, but we just got to hope everything keeps building while the pandemic fades out and everything's ready for us to start. I mean, that's the plan for us, mainly to get the show up and bigger for the fans to enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess as a last question, where do you want Onslaught to go next? What creative avenues do you see the band pursuing in the future?
The thing is, I don't think we're not gonna try and reinvent the wheel. We just want to keep making great thrash metal records. I don't think the fans would appreciate any deviance of direction or anything. Let's just keep writing great thrash metal songs, and keep making records that sound great. And records that sound different to the last one. That's all we can do, and hopefully it'll open more doors. We're always going to work hard to please the fans. That's the main thing at the end of the day. So, as I said, we won't reinvent the wheel to try anything silly or to break any new boundaries into other genres and risk what we have. Because we love doing what we do. So we're just going to keep on making the best thrash music we can.
Well, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciated the opportunity to talk with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
Take care.
And,
You just heard an interview with Nige Rockett from thrash metal band Onslaught. Their upcoming studio album, Generation Antichrist, will be released on August 7th. For more interviews like this one and much more, be sure to follow Sonic Perspectives on Facebook and Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel. To close out today's interview, we'll be playing the first single from Generation Antichrist. This is Religious Suicide.
To the end, slave into the book of lies, fighting the disease, praying through the sand of time, falling on his knees. Why to be the king of kings, wanted for the poor? Disciples at the hell of my own to war. Killing in the name of God, hallowed be thy name. Criminal hypocrisy. takes it up the ass, it's Jesus fucking Christ. The light and testimonies of hate, self-destructing paradox that's far beyond your fate. Revelation, death divine, resurrection born. Mass seduction, suicide, mentality is torn. Churches fall across the land, chapels laid to rest. Gospel driven underground, faith becomes possessed. Speak around the seven sins, advocate the priest. Children rape the dignity, romancing with the beast. Sacraments or sacrifice. Anti-cult or antichrist. Hanging on the holy cross, they name the priest twice. Religion takes it up the ass, it's Jesus fucking Christ. Takes it up the ass, it's Jesus fucking Christ!